Welcome to the Drive-By Entrepreneur Podcast, which exists to bring current and compelling content to entrepreneurs and influencers of small to mid-sized organizations. I'm John Frank, fellow entrepreneur and the owner of Third Road Management. And with this podcast, we will connect with a variety of experienced and dynamic individuals to shed some light on both the art and science of entrepreneurship. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, my very own Third Road Management, a company that brings fractional CFO services to small and mid-sized organizations by revolutionizing the CFO suite. We'd also like to thank Two Hound Red, a brewery and restaurant located in Glen Ellen, Illinois, that is focused on creating classic, innovative beer and food. And finally, we'd like to thank NWC Media, which provides inbound marketing technology, project workflow management, and efficiency consulting to organizations of varied sizes, who is also the producer of the Drive-By Entrepreneur podcast. All right, Tommy Bowman.
It's great to be here.
Welcome. Co-founding pastor of Mission Church. Welcome to the Drive-By Entrepreneur podcast by Third Road Management.
Nice.
Just want to start out with this, explain what this podcast is and who it's for. Basically, our mission statement is this: the Drive-By Entrepreneur podcast exists to bring current and compelling content to entrepreneurs and influencers of small to mid-sized organizations.
So you're hoping I can do that today?
That would be good if you can. If you can, that'd be great.
I plan to.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you and I have known each other for a while. We've worked together. But for anybody that might be tuning in that is unfamiliar with you and your role at Mission Church, why don't you just, say who you are and what you do, and we'll start from there.
So most importantly, I'm a fellow Lake Park High School grad.
There we go.
So go Lancers. From the area where our church is, founded Mission Church with my best friend and my other best friend, my wife. So my best friend John and best friend Jess. And we started Mission Church in 2011. You were there on the scene as a volunteer back in the day. So I'm the co-founding pastor. So John and I in one are kind of like a lead pastor. And so I take on a lot more of the in-office organizational leadership role. He's more of the on-stage person. So there's a lot of carryover that we both do, but in a nutshell, organizationally lead Mission Church with John. So it's a little bit about me.
Very good, very good. And you alluded to this a little bit, but obviously we've had multiple ways that our paths have crossed. First being fellow Lake Park Lancers, go Lancers.
Yep.
And then secondarily, me and my wife and my family just kind of being part of that group that was there at, the start or the launch of Mission.
Part of the first 50. Yeah, you guys were. Yeah.
Part of the first 50. And ultimately, that's a huge part of my story. Just being there, leaving my job, Wall Street, went and worked with you guys on the staff for a season. And then out of that, which was actually, it was like 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And then out of that was born what I'm doing now, Third Road Management. And you guys have been, a huge influence on all that, all the way through, and guiding me and sending me and all that great stuff. So I just love that we continue to be able to talk about this. And one of the things that, thematically what I wanted to hit on, during this podcast was I think that there's a lot of things that businesses, for-profit enterprises can learn from nonprofit organizations. Because when I, walked in, even from like a staffing perspective, I had been, at that point in time, 13 years in my career, Arthur Andersen, high yield market, institutional fixed income sales, all sort of like Wall Street, corporate finance type stuff. And, while those jobs were, awesome and attractive and, the types of jobs that are sought after, and I'm very grateful for those, I would say that one of the things that hit me when I went to work with you and John and the team was that for 13 years, there was no part of my job that, was related to developing me as a future leader, right? And so all the things that we started to do there around leadership development and around vision within an organization and all that kind of stuff was like very new and fresh to me. And I think that there's a lot of those applications that can travel from, I think what you guys have done well there to, the
Yeah.
for-profit community. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the last, at least since I've been in ministry for the last almost 15 years, there's a lot of churches and nonprofits who take a lot of principles from businesses, all the ones that that we all look to. And even authors like Jim Collins who do business writing. And the churches and nonprofits have seemed to do a good job of taking that stuff in. What's been interesting for me is as I've helped work with smaller businesses, they don't seem to as much take some of that coaching. For whatever reason, I've just noticed nonprofits, maybe because they just feel like they need it more, they've done a pretty good job, I think, of taking on some of that coaching, whether it's through conferences or podcasts or book. Why particularly smaller and medium-sized businesses don't? I have a theory. So, for-profit, nonprofit, both have a value proposition. In the for-profit space, it's like, I need something, you offer it, like, let's get together, and we're gonna create good, a better tomorrow of some kind. Nonprofit's more like there is a need out there. What if we partnered together and helped that need? I think we've tricked ourselves into thinking that's somehow more compelling, and it is compelling. I think it's really compelling in the for-profit space. This exchange of like, I need something, you have it, and if we can point to a better tomorrow in this for-profit space for our team, like our employees, the client, and the sectors we're in, then there's an opportunity for vision. And there's an opportunity to invest in the team and the clients and the sectors who we touch. And for some reason, the for-profit space just doesn't seize that opportunity. Like, I mean, maybe because it feels like an exchange of goods and services, like I'll pay you for that. And I just have found that there's a tremendous opportunity that for-profits, particularly on the smaller and medium size, aren't stewarding that
yeah,
opportunity for a better tomorrow. And there's so much vision opportunity
right.
in that.
Well, we see that, even with the work that we do is, small to medium sized businesses, you get all the plates that you're kind
Yep.
of holding up in the air kind of thing. And somebody comes by and says, hey, it would be better if you invested in your finance and operations to the point where, you know, you're better structured, you're better positioned to scale, you're better positioned to mitigate risk, all those things, right? And I think connected to that is everything that you're talking about with
Yeah.
vision, chemistry, culture, all those things from an organizational leadership perspective that, they miss out on, I think, in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
it's interesting you brought that up because I hadn't thought about that coming into it, but you're right. I mean, it's sort of the same conundrum I feel like a lot of businesses fall into on the finance and operations side that we, help fill that void. But, definitely, um, what we're here to talk about today is how
Yeah.
they can apply some of these principles. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great.
three things I thought we'd hit on today, that are somewhat connected and, somewhat not connected related to that. The first is vision. The second is culture. And the third part is leadership development. These are all things that, as I mentioned, when I went to work with you guys, those things became front and center for me in a way that was totally
Yeah.
new and very, very refreshing. That I was like, wow, I can't believe that, I wasn't part of something
Hmm.
like this before. Um, so, why don't we hit on those? And let's start with vision.
Sure.
I've got this, statement written down that I heard once that vision is a picture of the future that produces passion in people. And I always love that because it's kind of like this North Star that we're, running towards. Um, how do you think about vision and how have you led with it at Mission?
Yeah.
And, before we even go into any of that
Yeah.
stuff, let's, give credit where credit's due. I'll let you say it or whatever, but you would never take away, what, God has ordained for Mission Church
Yeah.
and its life.
That's good.
You happen to be with John, a co-founding pastor. But, how do you think about vision and,
Yeah.
maybe fill in some of that?
Yeah, that's great. God gets, we're faith-based, we're a church. He gets all the credit and the glory. Part of our role is stewarding tools, business principles even, for the ultimate end of his credit and his glory. So thanks for stating that. That is definitely true. Um, yeah, I loved your definition of vision that you threw out there. I've also heard it talked about as, vision is a picture of tomorrow that could be with the conviction that it should be, right? So I believe in this tomorrow, but also have this conviction like that must be. As I said prior, that can be found in the for-profit space as well. The thing I see over and over again, doesn't matter if it's nonprofit or for-profit, is massive confusion between the difference of mission, vision, and values. I did it too. And when the simplicity of it clicked for me, I was like, oh my gosh, I've gotten this wrong. And like, it seems like everybody's getting this wrong. So could be helpful and add value to your listeners and viewers. Simply how I like to talk about it is mission is why we exist. Okay. Mission's why we exist. Simon Sinek famously start with why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Same with your employees as well. So mission, why we exist. Then what we say in our organization a lot is if we pointed ourselves in that direction for a lifetime, or in the case of a business, I'd say a generation. But if we pointed ourselves in that direction of our mission, where we end up, that's vision. So vision is where we are going. It's not prescriptive, it's descriptive. So paint me a picture of tomorrow for you, your team, your clients, and your community because of where you're going. And then values to me are how we're going to get there. So if missions is where you start and visions where you end up, values are how we're going to get there. And I've just seen so many, what I see a lot is if I'll go into, it doesn't matter if it's a church, nonprofit, or for-profit, I'll see something on the wall and it'll say mission and it'll say what it is. And then vision will basically be the same thing, just written slightly different. And I never understood that. And then values tend to be these things that we think we ought to have on our website. Like, yeah, we definitely value these things. And I'm like, well, so how do you measure them? Like, well, we don't. Well, when do you talk about them? Well, we don't. So then I'm like, well, like, no offense, but those aren't your values. You don't value those things. There are things you value. And Patrick Lencioni's got a ton of great stuff on values. So that would be the first thing I'd say is we just tend to get mission, vision, and values wrong. And when you can kind of get them right, you can now see the importance of vision, this kind of where you're going. So there's a lot I could say about vision. 3 things I'll hit on, and please interject. I think vision is necessary, nonprofit, for-profit, doesn't matter. One thing that it does is it inspires. Okay, it's not going to inspire everybody. But it's going to help the people that it does inspire, like join in. Like when I go back to when you guys joined Mission Church, like, yeah, you knew me and John, but like you didn't join because of us. You joined because of the vision that we felt like God called us to. And some of the statements that we had around vision, like that's why you came. And so same's for-profit. People will choose to work with you. Employees will choose to stay with you because of this picture of tomorrow that produces passion in them. So it's always surprising to me how long nonprofits and for-profits actually last without this picture.
Right.
And so the first thing I'd say is that it inspires. Second thing I would say is that it focuses. So it's definitely a gift of like, hey, where we're going. It might even be a greater gift to answer where we're not going and what we're not going to do. So greatest example would be Southwest Airlines, their vision. They talk about being the most loving and efficient airline. So they have a heart on the side of their plane because loving, and they only fly one type of plane because they want to be the most efficient. So if their vision was the most luxurious, they probably wouldn't fly 737. So vision focuses what you say yes to and what you say no to. You were there and have been there, but the first 5 years, we were not clear on vision. We were also not focused. And it cost us, right? Like we weren't the same church that we are now. In 2017, we got clear on our vision. That doesn't mean everyone was inspired by it, but everyone at least now knows where we're going. So it focuses. And then I think the last thing I'll say is it unifies. And to be totally clear, that doesn't mean like everyone's going to love it and get unified. I think what we've stumbled into in the workplace, for-profit and nonprofit, faith-based, is we as a culture, people, we're looking for uniformity and we're calling it unity. Meaning like, I want it to be like this, and this. and I want everyone to be like this uniform. And it's like, no, no, no. We're going here. We're going to be unified on that. It's going to involve different types of people from different ages and stages and all that stuff. And we're going to maybe do it in a different way that might not be totally uniform to you, but that's okay because we're unified.
Right.
And so what I've learned over the last particularly 2-3 years just in our world is like my favorite people are the people who are like, I didn't totally agree with that, but where we're going is more important. So the uniformity was a miss, but they were able to look beyond it because of that. And I'm like, okay, so you're definitely with us, not because of me or the name on the church, because we're going there. And I think for-profits know that about their employees. Hey,
Yeah.
John, I might not do it this way, but I'm compelled by your vision as the CFO suite revolutionized.
Right.
I want to be a part of that game. And so inspires, focuses, unifies. It does a lot of other things, but it definitely does those things.
Yeah. You hit on two different things there. One is you were helpful to us
Mm.
in helping us sort of work out the language of the CFO suite revolutionized, right? This picture of this world where, I'm firmly in this position of belief that small to mid-sized organizations have done the CFO suite wrong forever, right?
Yeah.
And our, rallying cry, our vision of the future is that, it's been revolutionized and we are at the forefront of it. And I believe that to my core, and I hope everybody on our team believes that to their core as well.
Yeah.
Um,
It's good.
and the other language that came to my mind when you were saying that is sameness and oneness.
Yep.
Like I've heard that,
Yeah, John
descriptor.
has used that in the last couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, to get
Yeah. And I think it's really important. And where I see a lot of application for this now in the corporate world, and everybody's sort of got these varying opinions on remote workplace kind of stuff. Well, our business is going to stay fully remote. Are they going to say no? Everybody's got to come back in and be in the office all the time. And I think it's going to be a really interesting dynamic to see played out in the workplace because I'm of the opinion that the more people are scattered, right? Um, I just don't think that they're going to have that connectivity to
Hmm.
their team, their culture, the vision, the values of an organization. And I think it's going to lead to just increased turnover and things like that in these positions. And I feel like, terms like the great resignation going on right now are sort of reflective of that. Um, but I think it's going to be interesting to see because I don't think it's going to be one or the other.
Right.
Um, because, you have to bear in mind the obvious things that people have sort of adapted to and like this remote work environment, but you can't sacrifice, all the good things that come with people being together. So,
Right. And,
um,
and you bring up a great point. When you don't have a clear vision for where you're going, then take remote work. You, it's going to feel more personal to you to tell an employee like, no, you can't work remote just because I want you here in the office. Versus like, no, here's where we're going. Therefore, remote work A works or B doesn't work. What's going to get us there quicker? And now it's not personal. It's not even about how you even like to do things. It's just like, no, we're going there. Therefore, this must happen. Whether it's no, yeah, you can stay remote or come in. And I think especially the last 2 years, doesn't matter the space, so many new decisions have had to be made that we never thought we would make.
right.
And there's been this great resignation, great reshuffle. And I would bet not enough of these tough decisions were made through the lens of we're going there. Too
Right.
many of them were made by like, well, I'm the leader and this is just what I prefer. And I've probably done that at times too, but I've tried to be disciplined and we have to come back to our vision, which is a movement of Jesus in these 10 towns in our lifetime. So let's make decisions based on that. And I can't imagine not having that these last couple of years, really the last 10 years. I remember those first 5 years when we didn't have that clear picture and everything's a good idea.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, now I know like it's a good idea if it gets us closer to where we're going. So
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, I can't say enough, about that. And I've seen it even in the short, life of, Third Road Management. that, at times there's been either decisions that we've said no to because they didn't align with that. And, I can look back now and say, wow, that was a really good decision. Or like at the beginning, we were very confused as what we did. We were doing, fractional HR services and, fractional this and fractional that. And it was just, if you're trying to be everything, you're being nothing. So I think about that. And then I love how you connected, the remote work environment, right? And well, how does it align with the vision
Yeah.
for your organization, right? And I mentioned to you that I heard on a different podcast, Mark Andreessen was talking about this, which I think is um, a really compelling way for all business owners, large and small, to be thinking about it. He said for their organization, they haven't looked at it as, remote versus not. They've looked at it as chemistry and culture versus not chemistry and culture. And they have a very clear vision of who they are and what they want to do. And so they've said, well, how do we create culture in a remote work environment as opposed to sacrificing one or the other, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
they've taken all their money that they would have allocated towards rent and said, okay, twice or 6 times per year, once every other month. I don't remember exactly what
Yeah.
he said, but frequently enough that it matters. They're going to invest in like 3-day retreats with their staff and do fun stuff as well as team building stuff, as well as just social stuff and everything else, which I think is a really smart way of thinking about it that I don't hear people talking enough about. So,
Right. And I think the other thing that could be helpful for a for-profit leader or manager too is you want to retain people, especially good people. And what I try to watch out for and look for is that employee that I can really tell is there not just because of their job, but because they believe in where we're going. In fact, just last week, a woman on our staff, we were just talking. It's a new fiscal year we're going into. It's a little bit of a review kind of a setting. And she's like, I love my job and I love my role, but I'm here and will be here because of our mission and our vision. And so for me, that was so valuable. That was someone that like, okay, I'm going to invest in that because when she faces a problem or a decision, I now know the lens that she's thinking through. It's not how do I make my job easier, protect my job. It's no, where we all agreed we're unified around where we're going. And I think if I was in the for-profit space, let's just say I was in your seat, if someone said, I'm here because I believe in we can make this CFO suite, we can revolutionize it, I'd be like, oh man, you are very valuable on top of what you do and how you perform. That intangible belief, I think, brings so much, frankly, to the bottom line, even. So,
right.
yeah, vision is invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connected to vision, the second part that I wanted to hit on is that, culture. I don't know if exactly it's the right word, so I don't want
Yeah.
to like put words in your mouth. Um, but like, I always feel like you and John and the whole team have always done a very good job of creating a picture of what this looks like, right? So if you have your vision, right, where you're going, right, like you've always done a great job of giving people handles on what that means, whether it be the values that everybody knows that you talk about every single weekend consistently, to the giant picture of the aircraft
Hmm.
carrier in the lobby, to literally written all over the walls of the place,
Hmm.
the 5-year vision
Yeah.
and things like that. Those are like been all, I think, incredible tools, and I don't want to take them out of your tool belt here,
Sure.
but just kind of keeping everything in front of people, right?
Yeah.
And volunteerism has always been a huge thing, and it's all connected to
Yeah.
ultimately to the vision. But like when it comes to culture, like what do you think about how do those things fit together?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just curious
No, it's
for
great.
how you describe it.
A few years ago, I think it just kind of hit me too. Probably once we got clear on vision, I actually noticed it. And what I noticed is we think of like, oh yeah, I got to clear my mission, vision, values to help people see like where we're going. I think even maybe the more valuable gift besides giving people that is all the things that were a distraction that it just now removed. So now like there's smarter people that know this data, but like you just think about when people wake up, what they're inundated with and what they don't know what's coming for that day. Like what's coming when I go to work, like what's my coworker, boss, what's client, what's going to come at me that I'm unaware of. And like the amount of mental space that must take up, I can't even imagine. Well, I think in the nonprofit space, for us, people coming to our church, it was like actually, man, it was such a gift to remove all these invariables. You walk in, you just said it. You know why we exist. It's literally everywhere, and there's nothing else. Why we exist, where we're going, and how we're going to get there. So no one's like, well, I wonder if this is going to happen. It's like, nope, this is where we're going. And when I saw how freeing that was, and it made people, it's just easier to engage. And I thought, too, it built trust. The nonprofit church space hasn't been building a ton of trust in the last couple years, really forever. But like, we got to do a better job building trust. For profits do too. And I think when I'm able to say as a leader, like we're going there, and then actually honor that and do it, I just now built trust because I'm like, no, we're going where I said we're going. So that was another thing that, as you were talking, just reminded me of like the culture setting stuff that happens is like now I can build a culture because I just earned some trust too with all that stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, culture, it's a hard thing to define. A lot of people have tried to. There's probably some definitions, but you use the word feel. In a word, it's like the feel of the place. You can do this in a number of ways. So I talked about mission, vision, and values. Values being how we get to the vision. So we have internal values for our staff team, and we have these external ones that are organizational values. 3 of them: gather, grow, go. That's how we're going to get to our vision. And to help not confuse my employees, we call our internal ones principles. So principles are these 10 things that we talk about as a staff, and these out-facing ones are our values of gather, grow, and go. So I like to say too, like values are not words, values are ways. They're not words, they're ways. Too many people have values that are just words, and they're just very empty. But if you should be able to stand back and watch an organization, for profit and nonprofit, and be like, okay, they clearly value that. It's what you say the most, it's what you spend the most on, it's what you celebrate the most, right? Those are your values, whether you name them or not.
Mm.
And so I'm very proud. One of the things I'm most proud of about our organization is what you hear is what you also see. There's not much difference. What we say we value is what we ask you to engage in. And I'm proud of that because we didn't do that for a long time. And I think a lot of organizations don't do that. You mentioned a little bit of this too, but John's a master at like words and mantras. And so some of the things you can create, I think, in your for-profit, nonprofit, doesn't matter, are these little mantras that put words to the ways. So like we have one that's, make room for more, which tells our people like, hey, consider giving up your seat at an optimal time so a guest can come in, right? Make room for more. We are not done, right? That communicates we're just never satisfied with where we're at. We're not done. Redefining church, right? That was a mantra. The aircraft carrier is this thing that creates culture. And so, yeah, I think there's ways you can create culture around just coming up with these mantras that you say. And when you see it, you say it. And when you don't see it, you say it. Hey, remember. And I think another one that is definitely overlooked is the leader or manager's personality. I think nowadays we're kind of being told to apologize for like who we are and how we're wired. And while you want your for-profit, nonprofit to, of course, be for all people, if you're a leader that's starting with service, which a leader is someone who serves. So let's just baseline, a leader starts there. I would just say, be who you are. That's going to create culture. And that's not a bad thing. Like you shouldn't apologize, especially as the founder, for you just being you and culture being created around that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think we tend to think like, well, I got to be all things to all people. It's not going to work. So, and then the other thing around principles for us is we have these 10 statements, and they're really the only thing we talk about as a staff, right? It's if I do a review, I review someone through those 10 principles, not anything else. Because if these things are true, like everything else is clicking. And it's things like run hard, rest well, right? So putting words to these ways that we want to see, right? And the sub thing is like we will outwork and outrest everyone that we know. Another one is Jesus first, family second. Like we want you, even though you work here, to prioritize your relationship with him, but your family better be a huge value second to that. And so we have these 10 mantras that we talk about, and that creates culture internally. The great thing about that is some people, which it's actually been really helpful. Some people have left our team in a really healthy way, just saying like, I actually just don't align with these principles. We're like, oh, great. We love you. We will miss you. But that's okay. That's a reason I want them to actually leave. And then it really attracts the right people. Because when we interview people, when I come in for an interview, which isn't all the time, like if I interview on anything, I just put the 10 principles out and I just say, like, where's this gonna go well? Where's this not gonna go well? Let's talk about this on the front end. And so I said a lot, you can interject, but
No, I mean, I think in general, what I've seen over and over again with small to mid-sized organizations in particular, we'd be one of those. I think Mission Church would be one of them, and certainly most of the folks that we talk to at Third Road would be in that camp. But that, I don't know what the number of employees is, exactly,
yeah,
but there's like this fear factor of, well, if this person goes away, like, what are we going to do? Because nobody knows how to do that thing that they do, kind of thing. And, oh, I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, or whatever, right? So you tend to get, the organizational pieces that don't necessarily, fit because they've been kind of bolted on
right,
as the thing has grown. But kind of what you're talking about is in over the course of time, as that vision and mission get more clear, right? And you start looking through that lens of the organization, it's only natural that, some people may opt to go somewhere else, and that's okay, right?
yeah. And it brings an objective, um, you can point, so if you have to have we all have to have tough conversations with team, and it takes the like personal feelings out of it. It's just like, hey, remember, me and you, we committed to, we were gonna lead in this kind of way. I'm seeing that like, there's some deficiencies. Let's talk about that versus like you're not doing your job well. So principles can really help take the like subjective, like this isn't personal. This is just like you committed to this, I committed to this, and it needs to go both ways. Like if I, the leader, am not living like I need to be told that by my peers or employees, and I think that they actually create this very safe place because people know it's like the cards are on the table. Like this is what it looks like to be an A plus plus teammate on this team versus some other subjective things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And measurability. I mean, we're going to hit on leadership development stuff, but
Yeah.
that's another book and resource that's out there
Yeah,
as
and
well.
if you were to look at like our team in our church, um, now more than ever, like we look, there's more age, ethnicity, geographic diversity than we've ever seen before, the more we get clearer. And so I think the default is the more I be myself as a leader and the more I get clear and focused, I'm just going to eliminate people. We've experienced the total opposite. It's actually easier for all people, more people to engage because they're not guessing. They're not guessing what do these people stand for? Where's this organization going? This would be true of our staff and our church. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me, honestly, but I'm really proud of it, and it's really helped us.
For someone that might be tuning in, I just want to go back to
Yeah,
the values, gather, grow, go, because I think it's important for people that don't know those. You know what I mean? Like
totally.
they don't know what we're talking about right now. I do. Um, but connected to the vision,
Yeah,
can you just like double click on what gather, grow, go mean
yeah,
so that people are like, oh, I get it. I
perfect.
want to see how those connect to, the vision.
Yep, yep. Great question. So, why we exist? It should be 12 words or less. For us, it is helping people find and follow Christ. All right. And so we say, all right, if we were going to point ourselves in that direction, if we really help people do that, when we retire one day, if I ever get to, what's going to be the reality? That's our vision, a movement of Jesus in these 10 towns in our lifetime. So then what's in between that? If that's what we're driven by, if this is the passionate thing, and this is where we believe it's going to get us, well, then how are we going to do that? So our values are, which is the answer how we're going to get there: gather, grow, go. Gather meaning it's in the Bible, but we value gathering together. One of our mantras that we say is, it doesn't matter what you did last night or last year. So all people are welcome to join us in this value of gather. And so that's just not enough. Too much of church, more so in the Western Hemisphere, is just this. Like when people think church, they think building. I go here, I get what I want, I leave. That is only a part of what the church is meant to be. And so we want people to grow. The main role of the church is actually to equip people, not talk at people. So to actually help them grow, but for a very specific end, which is what Jesus commanded us to do. His final words were, go and help more people find and follow me. And so that's why our values are gather, grow, and go. And if you were to walk in our conference room and you've been in there, we monitor a lot of things, but we only measure really 3 things. How are we gathering? How are we helping people grow? And what are our go numbers? And so that's how they fit in. And that's why I say that they're our values, because they're literally the thing. They're the most valuable thing between why we exist and where we're going. And for-profits can do this as well. And what I've seen in the for-profit space is the values are actually the things that sell new clients. Like they might be compelled by your why you exist and where you're going, but I actually think the thing that you value are the easiest for a new client to latch onto. Like, so if you say we value trust, consistency, follow through, whatever, they're gonna be like, I want to partner up with you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's the role that our values play, and by default, they're very valuable. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
good question.
awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Last one I wanted to chat about was just leadership development. And I think we've hit on like 5 different, books, leadership books that are out
Yeah,
there. Really, probably more so for the for-profit community, right?
they are totally
But
are.
like, you said something about a crucial conversation, and was that Joseph
Joseph
Brenny,
Brenny,
right?
yeah,
Patrick Lencioni,
Jim
you met
Collins,
Jim Collins,
Simon
Simon
Sinek,
Sinek.
yeah,
That was all, when I came in, I would say the focus on personal development in those areas, as well as personal development in the sort of know yourself context. So Myers-Briggs,
Enneagram,
Enneagram,
Strengths
Strengths
Finder.
Finder. There's more tools out there than those. But I was like, what do you guys want me to do? Like I don't want to know myself, and I'm the Wall Street guy, right? But it was really eye-opening when I experienced all that, to understand, one, to know yourself, but then know how knowing yourself helps you act in a team environment better. And like so many light bulbs went off for me when I did that. But then also there's the, books and conferences aspect. There's the like, seeing a counselor regularly, or, whatever it might be, to help from your personal development perspective and your leadership development. So I wanted to just, let's touch on that, because
Yeah.
you've read more of these books in the last 2 months than I've probably read in 2 years. But I really, really do value it, and
Yeah.
I think it's great, and I want to be better at it. Right.
Yeah, it's good.
So like when you think about leadership development, like what does it mean to you? How do you stay on it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's easy to, pick up a book off the New York Times bestseller list or whatever. But like, what are like practical ways that people can like lean into that,
Yeah.
right? Or value it as an organization even,
Yep.
like, and measure it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like for me, I felt like I was forced to do it. Like I didn't have a choice. So I didn't go to school to do what I'm doing. I didn't grow up wanting to do what I'm doing. Um, I won't use a very spiritual word, but I felt like I know God told me to do it. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like in this space. I'm like, I've never done this. So I felt like I was forced to do it. And it was back to a word I used earlier on stewardship. Like, well, I felt like we were told to do it. We had to steward that invitation. And I'm not always the most humble person. I always need to grow in that. But I think you have to start from a place of humility and admitting what you don't know. And for me, it was very easy to know what I did not know. And I think because I cared about our vision as a church and the people who are now like you, who are now investing time and resources into it, I felt very responsible to grow in how to be a better leader. So it started with that humility, and then I was just so driven. I don't think I can take credit for it. It just was something in me that I didn't create, but I wanted to get this group of people to this tomorrow. And so I just went to work on learning. And I didn't, like my parents kind of laugh now because I wasn't a learner, bookworm, great student. And now it's like all I want to do is consume knowledge, not for knowledge's sake, but to help serve people and get us to this tomorrow. I think one of the hard things is like you can't put that in people. Like Daniel Pink, to name another business writer, he talks about being intrinsically like motivated. Like what I struggle with from a leadership development of other people, I haven't figured out how to put that in other people. I don't even know
Got
if
it.
you can. No one put it in me. Um, I think the best way to do that is to lead by example. And I felt like, to give John credit, he was coming with that, and I watched him, and so it inspired me to want to do it. And I feel like the things that people do for their own development on our team is because I'm doing my best, and John is like to set that example. And now it's such a great gift to have like what we're doing now is so. I actually read probably less books now because I can go consume more content in micro versions via podcast. But yeah, start with humility. Admit you don't know what you don't know, and then it's out there. So just go after it. And on top of just the content, like find someone who's a little bit ahead of your game that's done it before. Um, People are less territorial than we think and want to help more than we think that they do. And so we've always had people in our lives who are ahead of the game of us. So luckily we've been growing as a church. So every Sunday I'm leading a church the size I've never led before. So like we happen to stay on our game. And hopefully if you have a growing, thriving for profit, that's true of you. Hopefully you've never led something as big as what you're leading today. So in a word though, humility, starting with this place of humility.
You mentioned some of your, personal training, in this area. I know you've gotten certified in certain things, and some of it is, like that kind of stuff. Some of it's books or
Yeah.
podcasts or whatever. We've hit on a lot of books and things like that. What are some of those tools that maybe you've
Yeah.
either invested your time or your resources in getting certified for, or whatever, that you
Yeah.
feel like helps you
Yeah.
be a leader? Or like if somebody had, hey, what are 3 things that I can do to
Yeah.
grow in my leadership? What do you think
That's
it
really
might
good.
be?
Yeah, some of those tools you mentioned, like the Enneagram. I haven't done a lot of facilitating of other people, although I have this new certification now. That's been super helpful. Just what you were talking about is just like learning about yourself. What makes you the best version of you, but what are some of those shadow things that make you the worst part of
Yep.
you? One key thing I always tell people is like, don't use those tools as a license to be the worst the worst parts of you. So I don't be like, well, this is who I am according to this thing, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
No, it revealed an area of growth for you. It also revealed this thing that you're really gifted at that you should focus on your strengths. I know Strengths Finders well. For me, I don't coach it. There's a group called Patterson Center. Tom Patterson, he worked with Disney back in the 50s and 60s. He developed this thing called StratOp. So it's a 2-day process. I've done a lot of those tools with you. The most game changer for our organization has been 4 disciplines of execution. You currently can't get certified in it. I feel like if you could, I would definitely go do it. I wear an unofficial badge because I coach people on it all the time, but that has been a game changer for us. And it's our operating system for how we execute on a 90-day basis towards our vision. So those are just some, to name a few.
We've definitely adopted the 4DX model ourselves at Old Third Road Management.
Yeah.
It's a great tool, and there's other ones out there that
Yeah.
I've seen that are similar, but I
And
like that one because it's simple, it's clear.
there's a new one that I'm going to chase down next. Lencioni just, he came out with one called, I think it's Working Genius, that I'm hearing great things about, but I don't know anything about it yet. But that's going to be the next one that I'm hunting down. But I think from like if that's self development, I think as leaders we want to develop other people obviously too. And so that first one I talked about was like set a good example. Like don't be the guy telling people to be something that you're not already yourself. Like don't do that. So I think example, and then probably the most important one would be like empower. So like reflecting on your time with us, I don't feel like I developed you a ton as much as John, I just empowered you. Like we trusted you. So we like just turned you loose. And if you needed help, I think you came to us and we helped. But frankly, you were doing things we didn't know how to do. So we couldn't really help you anyways. But I felt like we just empowered you. And I think leaders need to just get better at delegating and empowering people. Craig Rochelle, a pastor of a church in Oklahoma City and multiple sites, he talks about um, like if you delegate tasks, you create followers, but if you delegate actual authority, you create leaders. And I felt like we gave you massive authority because we could trust you with it, and it made you, I think, a better leader from what I saw. So like set that example, empower people. And then the third thing, because I'm a pastor, I have 3 E's here. We like alliteration. The thing I'm probably the least effective at is engaging. So now that you've set an example, now you've empowered someone, like you created this hope by empowering them. Did you circle back? Is there a feedback loop? Like, are you telling them how they're doing, how they can improve? I need to get better, I know, as a leader I'm pretty good at empowering people, but then like engaging them in the process and saying, great job, but here's how you can get 10% better. Or keep doing that. Never do that again. I do tend to struggle. I want to just kind of trust people to just do a good job. You know what I mean?
I may know somebody that has a similar,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
similar issue, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Three E's.
I don't, I was joking with Dan earlier. I've never patted myself on the back I'm not as good of a leadership development person as I'd like to be. And there's a lot of things I haven't figured out. Like a lot of times I just want to hire the right person and be like, no, just go do an awesome job. And it doesn't always
Right.
work like that. So I'm working on those 3 things, right? Like set that good example, empower them, but then engage them to help them
Yeah.
get better.
Just to be clear, the other person I was talking about is
I
myself.
know.
Yeah, I knew you knew that. I just wanted to make sure to put that out there. But yeah, and I agree with that. And we all gotta, do our part to grow in those areas. And it's also one of those things that I learned about myself in that Strengths Finder process
Yeah.
was, when they listed out the 5 strengths and, the coaching in a group environment, um, that's where I said the light bulbs went off for me because I finally understood why, there were certain areas that I thrived in and certain areas that I just, needed additional growth in, let's say.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
I
I'll
think
use
with all 3 of these things that we've talked about, vision, culture, development, like whether nonprofit, for profit, whether faith-based or not, whether you have a faith or not, it really doesn't matter. I think one thing all people can agree on is like there's this ache in every person for meaning and purpose and community. So it's like, yeah, I want to have purpose. I want there to be meaning. And it'd be great if I could do this with other people. And I think vision creates that. Like back to the inspire, like, yeah, I want to do that. And yeah, it'd be great to do that. Like we talk about, one of our mantras internally is we get to do a great life's work in the circle of great friends. And people, I think all people desire that. Back to what you said earlier, that's why I'm skeptical if this remote work thing's going to fly.
Yeah.
Because I worry people are going to have too much anonymity and it's going to make their job, as Lencioni would say, a little bit miserable because they're not going to have that community. And I think to tie it into the development piece, when you help someone get better or give them a tool that makes them better, like that's intoxicating. That feels good. You crave more of that. When you can make the reason for getting better a compelling vision, now you've created this flywheel that's, you're going to keep people longer, you're going to get more out of great people, you're going to attract great people, and ultimately this vision's probably going to become a reality faster. And we all want these things. We just tend to do the 9 to 5 thing and skip them. So you've done some of this stuff too, but if you can carve out a month where it's like, hey, let's just put work aside and let's watch this video and talk about, this one principle, or a podcast like this. Let's watch this. Let's ask 3 questions about it. You're creating family, you're creating community, and then just always tie it back to that vision piece. So anyways.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Really, really good stuff. So here at the Drive-By Entrepreneur Podcast,
Okay. These are the tough questions
Um,
coming.
we do have 3 more questions for you. These are ones that are going to be yeah, they're just for fun. Let's not try to make it something that it's not. First one's a good one. Favorite podcast, and I will give you permission for more than one,
Okay.
because if somebody's listening,
There's a lot
we've
of
tossed out a lot of good leadership development stuff and whatever. But do you have one that's just kind of a fun one that you like, and then maybe if you have one or
Sure.
2 or whatever
Yeah.
leadership development ones,
Yep.
throw those out there.
Without a doubt, my favorite podcast for the last probably 3 years is called The Rewatchables.
Mm.
Have I told you about that one?
I'm very familiar with
Okay.
that one. Yes.
So in a nutshell, it's usually 3 people that they rotate. There's like a main host, but they rewatch a classic movie from typically like 80s and 90s, getting into the 2000s now, and they talk about it like we're talking right now. But they have these different categories, and it's like really fun.
Bill Simmons, love it.
Yep. And it's cool. Like usually the podcast, they try to make it the same length as the movie, which for like Godfather 2 was obviously longer, but so on like a fun kind of whimsical podcast, yeah, The Rewatchables. I think from like a leadership perspective, I mentioned Craig Rochelle, first Thursday of every month. He has a leadership podcast. They're about 20, 25 minutes, and they're super helpful. Doesn't matter, for-profit, nonprofit. That's called the Craig Rochelle Leadership Podcast. Those would probably be my top 2.
All right. That's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Question number 2, best concert you've ever been to?
Yep. So believe it or not, I like music. I do a little bit myself. I don't go to a lot of concerts, but I went to one by a guy named Glenn Hansard, Irish folk singer. I was brought to this concert in Kansas City. I was actually moved to tears. He unplugged everything, hung his bare feet off the front of the stage, and just sang and filled up this auditorium with this song, and it was one of the most meaningful musical experiences I've ever experienced. So I've done some of the big shows, but that Glenn Hansard show was meaningful, moving.
Hit in a different way.
Totally hit. I didn't expect to cry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't usually cry, but
Yes, I do.
I don't go to a lot of Adele concerts or anything like that. But all right. Okay, last question. Place that you've been that everyone should visit once.
Yeah. I would say my wife and I go to Sonoma for wine tasting every November. Sonoma in the fall. The reason I say this is Napa gets like all the credit, and it's of course great. Sonoma's just a little bit more accessible. It's a little more laid back, untucked, and great wine, and it's beautiful. Specifically in the fall, looks a lot like Italy, which I was gonna say, but it's just hard to get to. So Sonoma's a little bit easier. So I would say Sonoma Valley.
A little bit more accessible for the American.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, great
Beautiful.
questions.
Well, Tommy Bowman, thank you for being here. It's been a blast. I think I'm going to have to listen to this several more times to just soak it all in here a little bit. A lot of really good content, a lot of good ideas and things that, even for our own organization, we should be thinking about. So I think this is going to really bring a lot of good value to people, and grateful to you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
Appreciate
it.
All right. Hi, I'm John Frank, founder and CEO of Third Road Management, and I just want to say thanks for listening in or perhaps viewing the Drive-By Entrepreneur Podcast. My true hope is that this content inspires meaningful change for you and your organization. I hope you enjoy it.